Let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed that there's a point where money stops feeling urgent but doesn't quite feel powerful yet? You're not stressed every day, you're not panicking about bills, but you're also not confident, you're just hovering. If you've ever crossed $10,000 in savings or investments and expected some big emotional shift, only to feel mostly the same, this video is for you. Because the truth is, 10,000 is not where your mindset fully changes. That shift happens at 20,000, and almost no one talks about why. This video isn't about getting rich. It's not about flexing numbers. It's about understanding the moment where your relationship with money quietly, permanently changes, whether you notice it or not. Most people think financial confidence comes from income, more money per paycheck, a raise, a better job. But confidence doesn't come from income. It comes from distance. Distance between you and zero. At $5,000, that distance is fragile. At $10,000, it's encouraging. But at $20,000, something different happens. Your money stops feeling temporary. Here's what $20,000 actually represents. It's not a luxury fund. It's not rich. It's not financial freedom. It's resilience. At $20,000, your money can absorb mistakes, bad months, unexpected costs, market dips, life being life. Below that number, every hit feels personal. Above it, problems feel manageable. And that difference rewires how your brain behaves. Let's rewind for a second. Think about the journey from zero to your first 10,000. That phase is pure effort. Every dollar saved feels intentional. Every expense feels like a decision. Every setback feels dangerous. Your brain is constantly asking, am I messing this up? What if I need this? What if I lose it? Money feels fragile because it is. But at 20,000, the fragility fades. Not because you're invincible, but because you finally have margin. Margin is the real flex. Margin means you don't panic when your car needs repairs. You don't spiral over a slow month. You don't feel like one bad decision wipes you out. You stop asking, can I afford this? And start asking, is this worth it? That's a completely different mental operating system. Here's something subtle that happens at 20,000. You stop checking your balance compulsively, not because you don't care, but because you trust it. You stop refreshing apps. You stop running worst-case scenarios in your head. You stop tying your mood to your account balance. Money moves from the foreground of your mind to the background, and that's when it becomes powerful. At 20,000, you also stop being afraid of learning. Below that number, every financial decision feels risky. Every investment feels like a gamble. Every mistake feels permanent. But once you cross 20,000, mistakes turn into feedback instead of disasters. You're no longer terrified of being wrong. You're curious. And curiosity is where wealth actually starts. This is also where time enters the picture. Below 10,000, everything feels immediate, short-term, urgent. At 20,000, you start thinking in years. You begin to understand that progress isn't measured monthly. It's measured over cycles. You stop asking, what should I do right now? And start asking, what should I stick with? That shift alone puts you ahead of most people. Here's a quiet truth. Most people never reach $20,000 because they reset before they get there. They save. They build momentum. Then life hits. An emergency. A move. A lifestyle upgrade. Just this once. Decision. And suddenly they're back at zero. What 20,000 changes is identity. Once you reach it, you stop seeing your money as something to use. You start seeing it as something to protect. That's the line between consumer and owner. At 20,000, your money also starts talking back. Not loudly, not dramatically, but meaningfully. Your gains are no longer symbolic. They're noticeable. A good month feels encouraging. A bad month feels tolerable. You finally experience what compounding actually feels like, not just what it looks like on a chart. And once you feel it, you don't unfeel it. This is why people who cross 20,000 rarely go back to zero. Not because they can't, but because they won't. The floor has moved. You don't start over anymore. You adjust. You rebalance. You continue. That's a massive psychological upgrade. Now here's the part most advice gets wrong. You don't reach 20,000 by grinding harder. You reach it by staying consistent longer than your motivation wants to. Motivation fades, systems don't. The people who reach 20,000 aren't more disciplined, they're just better at removing friction. They automate, they simplify, they stop relying on willpower, and that's what actually scales. If you're somewhere between 10,000 and 20,000 right now, this phase might feel boring. Progress feels slower, wins feel smaller, the novelty is gone. That's not a sign you're failing, it's a sign you're transitioning. You're leaving the exciting beginner phase and entering the boring but unstoppable phase. That's where real momentum lives. Here's how you know you're close. You start caring less about income spikes and more about consistency. You start valuing peace over flash. You start saying no to things that would have impressed your old self. Your priorities quietly mature. And that's what wealth actually looks like early on. Let's be clear about something. 20,000 won't solve all your problems. It won't remove stress entirely. It won't make you immune to mistakes. But it will give you space. Space to think, space to plan, space to breathe. And space changes behavior. This is why I call $20,000 the confidence threshold. Not because of what you can buy, but because of what you stop fearing. You stop fearing emergencies. You stop fearing slow progress. You stop fearing small setbacks. And fear is the biggest tax most people pay. If you're not there yet, that's okay. The goal isn't speed, it's inevitability. Focus on staying in the game. Protect what you've built. Let boring consistency do its thing. The shift will happen, quietly, gradually, permanently. So if you're listening to this and thinking, nothing has changed yet, good. That means you're close. Because the $20,000 shift doesn't announce itself. You wake up one day and realize money doesn't control you anymore. You control how it fits into your life. And that's when the real game begins. If this helped you reframe where you are, take a second and sit with that. Progress isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just stable. And stability is the foundation everything else is built on. I'll see you in the next one.